Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And perhaps my most famous opinion ever is that Skyrim's a pretty big game. And a pretty large component of such an experience is its quests. Indeed, The Elder Scrolls V offers the Dragonborn quite literally hundreds of designated missions to embark on, each filled with adventure and storytelling. Well, at least, usually. A couple of weeks ago, we took a gander at some of Skyrim's worst hits. The quests that failed the hardest in bringing us any sense of joy, and often left us feeling worse than when we started. Well, today, I'd like to change tune for a bit, and do the opposite. Instead assessing some of the game's best missions. The ones that left us feeling the most excited, and that felt the most unique. Anyway, you know what's coming. Sit back, have Sadia fetch your favorite mead, and relax, as we prepare to dive right into my top 5 quests in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Before we begin, quick note. Around a year ago, I made a similar video, but only factored side quests. No main, factional, or Daedric ones were considered, which in hindsight was extremely limiting. Anywho, just wanted to make that distinction clear now. This video is going to consider everything. Anyway, without further ado, let's do further. Starting off, we'll be transforming what should be the happiest day of a person's life into their last. Yes, Bound Until Death is a pretty pivotal quest in the Dark Brotherhood storyline. In it, you're given the task to assassinate Vittoria Vici, a high-ranking East Empire Company official, and cousin of the Emperor himself, on her wedding day. Her wedding is a big deal. She's set to marry Askir, a member of the Stormcloak supporting and very powerful Snowshod Nord family. Being an Imperial herself, and just so well connected to the Empire, Vittoria's marriage to someone like Asgir, who is her exact opposite, has stirred up quite the ruckus across Skyrim. But at the same time, it's also seen as a brief opportunity for peace and unity. The power of love overcoming the division of civil war has inspired a few people, and led to a good bit of optimism regarding the land's future. But enough of that mushy stuff. Vittoria's gotta die. The Brotherhood believes that killing her on this day will be enough to force the Emperor, their real target, to come to Skyrim and pay his respects. But that's a plot line to be explored later. Bound Until Death is a fairly short quest, but a welcome relief from the usual dungeon crawls and item fetching that we've grown used to. We get to infiltrate a unique little wedding party, filled with some of Solitude's most notable personalities, and we'll be able to eliminate Vittoria in just about any way that suits your fancy. We can push a statue off a ledge while the couple is on a balcony, to eliminate them both quickly and somewhat comedically. Vittoria can be sniped from a nearby tower with a bow and some arrows the Brotherhood left us, and we can disappear into the shadows. Or the player can just brute force their way through the entire affair, just walking up to the girl and striking her down before the entire party. Whatever method you choose, after the bride has fallen, the ceremony will erupt in spectacular chaos, as her family accuses the Nords of orchestrating her death, whereas the Snowshods claim it to be a setup. If left uninterrupted, the two families will begin battling each other in Solitude streets. It becomes utterly insane. After a few moments, Vizara, a fellow Brotherhood assassin, should arrive to help cover your escape, and the two of you will get to make a desperate dash out of the city, evading city guards, angry citizens, and Penitus Oculatus agents, in a hurry to rush out of those gates. I think the whole charm of this Dark Brotherhood contract is the abnormal environment it thrusts us into. We're not clearing out a cave or sneaking up on some dude in his house. Instead, we're crashing a wedding in the most revolting fashion imaginable, and only strengthening a huge divide in Skyrim. It's quite fun, really. It's just kinda sad that Vittoria's our target. In the game, she's always presented as a fairly hard-working and good human being. And the fact that she's willing to marry someone that everyone in her circle has encouraged her not to really does say a lot about her character. she's a good person. So, I suppose the only unfortunate part about this contract is who we have to execute it on. Next on our list, we're heading to the Bronze City of Markarth, capital of the Reach. Here, upon your second visit to the city, it's possible to be, seemingly randomly, accosted by a Vigilant of Stendar, named Vigilant Tyrannus, while you're walking the streets. He'll ask if you know anything about an abandoned house that the two of you are in front of. And this will be the beginning of what is possibly among the most terrifying quests the Elder Scrolls V has to offer: the House of Horrors. You see, Tyrannus claims that this abandoned house is being used for Daedra worship, suspecting that the followers of evil gods and monsters congregate here to praise their dark overlords. Him being a member of the Vigilance of Stendar, an organization dedicating to purging Daedra influence wherever it's found, is currently investigating the matter, and is about to enter the home to see what he can find. He'll invite you to join him, and watch his back, promising some coin after it's all over. Enter the home alongside him, and your nightmare will finally begin. After a few moments of scoping out the structure, a dark voice will begin booming off of the walls, and objects will start flying all over the area. Turns out, this house isn't merely used by some worshippers of dark gods, but is instead possessed by the Daedric Lord of Soul Harvesting himself, Molag Bal, one of the most powerful and evil Daedra known to the world. My first go-around of this moment was probably the most chilling time of my entire 3,000 plus hours in Skyrim. It absolutely shook me. I remember being a teenager, pausing the game and just going outside for a little bit mid-chaos in an effort to grab a breath of fresh air. It was genuinely scarring. Enough of my trauma though. Molag Bal will command that you and the Vigilant battle to the death, refusing to let either of you leave until one is dead. Tyrannus, the poor guy, realizing that he's in way over his head, will completely crack and start attacking you. Once you've emerged from the ensuing fight victorious, Mr. Bal will summon you to a secret shrine of his beneath the home to, quote-unquote, claim your prize. He's lying, by the way. Once you get to the shrine, the Daedra will encage you in some weird structure and begin mocking the player for thinking earning his favor would be so easy. No, this dark entity still has work for you to do. Honestly, at this point, the quest sort of dies down from a creative and narrative standpoint. The real memorable portion was the introduction. But nevertheless, Molag will demand that you head out and bring to him the priest of a rival god, who he claims has been desecrating one of his shrines, so that he can steal his soul. The target in question can be found at a random dungeon, already being held a prisoner. Simply clear out said dungeon, tell the priest to go to the abandoned house, and kill him in front of the shrine with Molag's mace to complete the quest. Again, the ending is kind of lackluster, but the introduction to everything is so impressive, I feel like I have to give this quest a mention. Very few times in Skyrim does Bethesda attempt to absolutely horrify us, but with the House of Horrors, they did just that, and absolutely succeeded. So, if in the Elder Scrolls VI you're ever walking down the streets of a city and are accosted by a random Vigilant of Stendar asking you to enter a random home, be a little bit cautious. You may not know what exactly you're getting yourself into. Coming in at number 3, we'll be setting sail not to Solstheim, but instead Japhet's Folly, a mysterious island in the Sea of Ghosts, for the side quest, Rise in the East. This is probably my favorite non-faction affiliated side quest in the game, because while it does incorporate elements that feel sort of dungeon crawly, it goes above and beyond in its setting, and the quest itself is fairly hidden, to the point where many players have never even heard of it. Rise in the East begins when you enter the East Empire Company warehouse in Windhelm, and speak to Orthus Andario, a company official who has a big problem that maybe you can solve. You see, the company trades various goods throughout Tamriel. However, over the past few months, their shipments to Skyrim have been disrupted thanks to a pirate gang that's harassing their boats in the northern seas. Orthis will ultimately send you to Dawnstar to speak with an alleged member of the gang who the Dragonborn will have to either bribe or beat into revealing the location of his group's secret hideout, which it turns out to be the island of Japhet's Folly. When you return to Orthis, he'll already be waiting alongside Adelasia Vendici, an Imperial captain, and her small army of mercenaries, who are ready to set sail and confront these scurvy foes. Simply hop on the boats, and after a short loading screen, you and the Imperial forces will be anchored just off the coast of the island. But there's a little bit of a complication. Right now, the area is covered in an extremely dense fog, making it almost impossible for Imperial artillery to accurately target the location, and for Imperial soldiers to storm the beach. Adelasia suspects that the fog here is in fact the work of a specific mage hidden within a fortress on the island. She'll request that you'll sneak into said fortress and kill that mage, so the fog will hopefully disappear and the attack can commence in earnest. At this point, you'll do just as you're asked. Hop off the boat, sneak your way to the fortress on the island, and hack your way through a number of pirates and bandits all the way to the mage you're after. Once he's been killed, a truly action-packed sequence will commence as you re-emerge from the fortress to find Imperial soldiers storming the beaches and artillery blowing pirates to smithereens. It's insanely cool. This sequence will continue for a few moments, before all of the pirates have been slain, and you link back up with Adelasia, who will say the job's been done, and the pair of you will sail back to Skyrim. Upon your arrival, you'll be rewarded with some coin, and thanked for your help, completing the quest. I think for most people, it's the neat new environment that we'll be able to explore that makes Rise in the East just so much fun and so difficult to forget. I'm not necessarily sure how much extra work it required, but the fact that Bethesda went so far as to create an entire island just for this quest was really impressive to me. I went into this side quest expecting to simply be sent over to some weird cave or something, clear out some bandits and report back. And, well, in hindsight, I suppose that is what I did. The cool nature of where exactly I got to go definitely made all the difference. For fourth spot, let's finally take a look at a quest featured in Skyrim's main storyline, and what is, in my opinion, really the main campaign's best mission: Diplomatic Immunity. Not only is it highly replayable, but depending on the choices you make, there will be genuine consequences in the game going forward, and even some new opportunities opened up. Let's jump into it. As the game's first act comes to a close, and it becomes obvious that there truly are dragons threatening Skyrim for the first time in thousands of years, you'll be sent by some trusted allies to infiltrate a party at the Thalmor Embassy, the Aldemary Dominion's provincial headquarters, with plans to break off and search the area for clues regarding what the Dominion may know. In the Elder Scrolls, it seems like the Thalmor have their hands on just about everything, so them having some association with the return of the dragons makes sense. Spoiler alert though, it will ultimately turn out that the elves are just as baffled by the Dovas as everyone else, and we don't really learn anything new. But nonetheless, it makes for a great adventure. We'll first arrive at the party, all dressed up in a disguise, where we can mingle with some of Skyrim's most prominent elites in the lobby for a little bit. Exactly who shows up to this party is both somewhat random and subject to which characters and factions you've interacted with. But the guests could include anyone from Jarl Bolgruf to General Tullius. Your first order of business will be to create a distraction, in order to buy yourself some time to sneak off to the back. And to do this, you can either bribe a somewhat tipsy party guest, or call in a favor with any of the other attendees you've previously lent a hand to, who will be willing to take the fall for the player. The distractions each character offers are downright hilarious. Most will just harass Razalan, the tipsy fellow, and get him to cause a scene, but others will start throwing their own tantrums. It can be pretty funny. Nonetheless, once the attention's been turned, an ally of yours named Malborn, who's in on your scheme, will help you sneak out back, where you'll either need to fight your way through some elven troops guarding the courtyard, or put on some Thalmor robes, and try and pass as one of their own. This will only work if the player character is a non-beast race, and works best if you're a fellow high elf with a high sneak skill, but it can be done. Eventually, after fighting/sneaking your way through a tiny army, we'll stumble across a box of the Thalmor's most precious documents, which contains a dossier on the recent dragon return. And in it, it's clear the Aldmeri Dominion is just as terrified as everyone else. So now, having learned effectively nothing, it'll be time for us to get out of here. But as we try to sneak out through a secret tunnel in a hidden dungeon/prison room, 2 Thalmor soldiers will present themselves, alongside a captured Malborn, our old friend who helped us out. They'll immediately start attacking him before our eyes, and here's where things get neat. We can just run away and leave poor Malborn to die, or, if we're a bit quick on our feet, we can save him, defeating the Thalmor first and fleeing the dungeon with him. After you escape, either with Malborn or not, the quest will be completed. But if you saved Malborn, he can later on be found in the game, at a tavern in Windhelm, where he'll offer you an entire quest to take out a Thalmor assassin who's been hunting him since the incident at the party. So not only do you have quite a few options in how you approach diplomatic immunity to begin with, some of those choices open up totally new quests as well. Frankly, not even this rather lengthy analysis of the whole affair covered everything, which goes to show how complex it can get. Suffice it to say, while I may have been a bit disappointed with much of the main questline's rising action, diplomatic immunity was definitely the exception. And finally, last on our list, we'll confront what is arguably one of Skyrim's biggest mysteries, the quest In My Time of Need, and who's telling the truth. So, after the main quest, Dragon Rising, has been completed, a new random encounter will be unlocked, where it'll now become possible to encounter 2 Alakir warriors on a roadside, harassing a random Redguard woman. The 2 soldiers will press the girl, arguing that she's a fugitive and a criminal, before eventually realizing that they're harassing the wrong person, apologizing and walking off. If you approach any of the Alakir soldiers, you can ask what that whole incident was about. They'll explain that they're authorities from the faraway province of Hammerfell. They're currently searching for a mysterious woman who allegedly sold out one of Hammerfell's cities to the Aldmeri Dominion. They want to have her captured and brought back to her homeland, so she can be tried in a criminal court. Trouble is, they don't exactly know where this woman is. They suspect she's in or around the city of Whiterun. But seeing as they are technically foreign diplomats, they're not actually allowed within the gates of Whiterun, so can't conduct their investigation very thoroughly. Though, as they explain this to you, they'll realize that maybe you could lend them a hand. They'll ask that you go inside the city of Whiterun and see if you can find a Redguard woman who might fit the profile of who they're searching for. This begins the quest, In My Time of Need. Long story short, your brief investigation will lead you to Sadia, the only Redguard woman in the city of Whiterun, who is currently working as a waitress at the Bannered Mare Inn and Tavern. If you speak to Sadia and tell her that some Alakir warriors are after her, she'll pull you away to a back room and beg for your assistance, explaining that those men aren't who they say they are. No, they're not authorities from Hammerfell. They're in fact assassins hired by the Aldmeri Dominion to have her killed. She claims she's an enemy of the Thalmor, not an ally, and those Redguards want her dead. Sadia will give you the location of these warriors' stronghold, and beg that you go over there and clear it out, so they'll stop bothering her. As you can probably tell, now we're in a bit of a predicament. Both sides allege that the other is evil and in cahoots with the Aldmeri Dominion, and now we need to pick a side. We can head on over to the location that Sadia gave us, clear it out of warriors, and report back in exchange for a small sum of gold. Sadia will thank us and continue living her life as normal. But if we do that, then we might have just let a terrible criminal get away and killed a bunch of innocents. Or we can do the opposite. We can head to that same location, but instead of killing all of the warriors there, inform them of Sadia's location and work out a deal. The warriors will ask that we bait her just outside of the city walls, so one of them can sneak up on her, paralyze her, and arrange to have her taken back to Hammerfell. Neither of these choices is inherently right or wrong, which is what makes this quest so interesting. Bethesda doesn't tell us who's lying, like at all. It is completely up to us to decide. Who's telling the truth? It's up to you. Now, I will say that personally, I've always sided with the Red Guards, as they do paralyze her, and they do seem intent on taking her back to receive a fair trial in Hammerfell. Normally, most Thalmor assassins from our experience in the game just try to straight up kill you, which isn't what these guys are doing at all, which gives them a bit of credit in my opinion. Yet at the same time, there's absolutely zero evidence against Sadia, like none at all, so who knows what's going on? And it's that question that makes this quest so fun. I mean, even to this day, I find debates about this very question spring up in my comment section. The mystery of which side was telling the truth is one that I think is going to continue to baffle the Skyrim community for many years to come. At least until Tez 6 comes out, which is likely many years away. Yay! And with that grim reality acknowledged, we are going to wrap up my top 5 quests in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Which of these was your own personal favorites, and which missions do you think deserved a spot in this video that I didn't get a chance to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. A huge shout out to all of the members and patrons that have supported the channel, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.